Welcome to the Live Like Eden podcast. I'm your host, Lindsay, and I'm thrilled that you're here. Years ago, out of nowhere, I found myself in a radical shift in consciousness that took me over 20 years to fully wrap my head around. Yes, that's right. It took me a long time, and without any warning, down the rabbit hole of darkness I went. Now I'm here to share with you all the insights of awakening, spirituality, health, the energetic world we're living in, and my absolute favorite topic, just how crazy the ego mind can be. These subjects are designed to help you understand the awakening process, to open your mind, and prepare you for your own unique spiritual journey toward inner peace. So I invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy today's discussion. Before we get started with today's show, I want to share with you something I've been working on. I have created a quiz just for you to see where you are on your own unique spiritual path. Everybody loves a quiz, right? You can go to my website at livelikeeden.com, click on the quiz pop-up, and answer 10 quick questions. You'll get an immediate response emailed to you with your results, a personalized podcast playlist including 5 Live Like Eden episodes that will offer you assistance where you currently are. And I've also thrown in a few bonus episodes that you'll receive a few days later. If you're a spiritual junkie, you're in the midst of awakening, or you're simply curious where you might be in your own spiritual process, check it out and feel free to share with your friends who might be interested too. I just had a great opportunity to sit down with a wonderful woman by the name of Brooke Deanne, who was born and raised in a religious cult. Now, I know I do shows on cults from time to time, and I find the dynamic inside of them very interesting, so I was really excited to get the opportunity to chat with Brooke. I'm going to play the interview for you here, and you're going to get to hear her personal experience and story inside and how she got out of the cult and has now completely transformed her life and is devoting her time to helping other people who've experienced similar things. Any of you listening who have been inside of a cult, who are struggling to heal, anybody who's suffering from abusive relationships, as she will explain, these two have very similar patterns. Brooke offers therapeutic services online, and I will link all of her information and website information for you in the show notes. It seems today there are more and more stories coming out of abusive situations inside of cults. It's so nice to hear that there's actually help available for people that are really, really suffering. So I hope that you enjoy this interview with Brooke. Share it with people you know who might be struggling in this area, and I will see you all next week. All right. Hello, Brooke. Welcome to the Live Like Eden podcast. I'm so excited that you're joining me today.
I'm excited to be here and have this conversation with you. I love the title of your podcast, and I'm actually kind of curious why you named it that.
Oh, well, I could get into a whole thing on that now. That
Yeah.
would take over your show.
I know. I was just like, I should have asked before, but yeah.
I know. Really quick, all it is I think of the Garden of Eden. Most people know what it is. I don't think of it literally. I think of it symbolically as our remembrance of our true nature as spirit and home in God. So when I say live like Eden, I'm referring to this connection to who we truly are inside. So that's basically what it's about.
Okay. I love that. I totally resonate with that. That's why I asked the question. It's perfect.
Okay. Well, cool. Because people probably wonder, I do say it like initially, but I don't talk about it a lot. So thanks for asking. So
Yes.
to get started, you're a trauma healing mentor, I hear, and it looks as if you've been through your own personal experience with it being in a cult and abusive relationships. So what I like to do on the show, and the show really evolves around people's personal transformations. You know, oftentimes we get thrown into difficult situations in life, and they lead us into something we never saw coming. So what I would love to start with, if you're okay with this, is just sharing your own personal story about where you came from and how you got to be where you are today, helping other people.
Yes. I like to call it initiation.
Yeah, that's good.
Into this space because, my experience, it's a very long journey, but so I will try to keep it as short as possible for my story here. But I grew up in a cult. So I was raised a Jehovah's Witness. I was born into it. So it was very generational. My parents' parents were in it. Their parents were in it. And I didn't know anything outside of that. You know, when you're a child, you're taught to believe your parents are telling you the truth and they know best, right?
Right.
That's what we say. We know better than you, right?
Yeah.
And so you don't question your parents. So when they gave me the experience of being in this religion, I didn't question it. I was taught not to question from the religion and from my parents. So I just thought that you were supposed to be a submissive, kind of perfect little girl, do as you're told, don't be a sinner, um, really, be an example for everybody, but also conform with what you have to wear, how you have to act, who you have to be. Because we weren't allowed to celebrate holidays. So when I was a child, I had to sit out and experience everybody else having fun and celebration while I sat at the library doing, some boring craft or reading a book. And I always felt like I hate this. Like I
Yeah.
hate different. I hate not being able to celebrate birthdays. I hate not celebrating Christmas and all of these other fun things. They looked like fun as a kid, right? Nobody wants to be left out as a kid.
Right.
So that first was my experience. And then my father was very narcissistic. He loved external appearances, expected perfection, and also was full of a lot of rage. So I didn't feel safe with him. I didn't feel like I could be my true self. And anytime I tried to kind of expand or explore, I was really put back in my box to be a certain way. And that experience led me to then pick someone in the cult that was also pretty much a carbon copy of my father.
Hmm.
That's all I knew, right? It was
Yeah.
all I had ever experienced. So I'd only experienced control and being submissive and doing as you're told. And it doesn't matter if I hurt you or make you feel bad, you still have to do what I say. And it was like a lifetime of never being heard, never being
Yeah.
seen. And it really carried a lot of deep wounds. So when I broke free in 2017 of the cult, I realized that I was in a cult, that it was a lie. My then husband kind of discovered this, and I kind of told him he was a liar at first. And I had a lot of cognitive dissonance because I was like doing what I was told, standing up for my belief system. And then I kind of went down the rabbit hole and realized, oh my gosh, I think he's right. And
Yeah.
that was really scary because then I went down the rabbit hole of realizing that I was even in an abusive marriage. So, abusive cult, abusive marriage, really experiencing all these things of life. And then having to kind of break out of that mold, lose my identity, lose my community, lose my family, because the minute that I made that decision, I knew what that meant. I knew it meant I would be abandoned, I would be shunned, I would be outcast. And it was scary because I didn't, I felt very alone. I was also felt like I was betrayed by God. I felt like I don't know what to believe or who to turn to anymore. And so it was very scary. I went through a very scary process of kind of not being able to sleep, not being able to eat.
Hmm.
I also like to speak about, when you detox from a trauma bonded relationship, there's also kind of like a chemical dependency that you kind of have on this relationship. And it feels like you're losing your drug, and it feels like the body can't handle it because the body doesn't know what to do. It's very scary. So
Like a withdrawal
withdrawal.
symptom. Yeah.
Yes, total
Yeah.
withdrawal. And it's very overwhelming to the system. So I kind of was going through that process because I left both in 2017 and trying to find my footing. I resorted to denial. So, because denial keeps you safe, right? And
Right.
the grieving process, you first have some shock and denial, and that's where I was at when I lost my community and my relationship. I used denial to keep me safe. And so I just kind of like threw everything over here and didn't want to look at it. I didn't want to think about it. I just wanted to like figure out life, take care of my two boys, those type of things, and just show them that like I could pick myself back up and figure it out. But I was really just coping. I was struggling. I was
Yeah.
surviving. Um,
How old were your boys when you left this? How old were your kids?
my youngest was 10, and I'm sorry, my oldest was 10 and my youngest was 3.
Okay.
Yeah, about those age ranges. Yeah. So they were still, my oldest definitely was very indoctrinated because when we left, he was still very like, no, you can't do that. God's gonna be so angry with you and we're gonna be destroyed and we're all gonna die.
Yeah.
So he was definitely, drinking the Kool-Aid and really believing that, us leaving was gonna mean that we weren't gonna live. And so he had a lot of fear too, and he lost his identity in the process. So we really were going through it together. And
Yeah.
I didn't really have the tools to even manage it for myself, let alone manage it for my kids. So I was kind of just trying to grasp at straws. And that's when I found, talk therapy. I was like, I need help. I need some resources here. I need to find
Yeah.
some support. And that's when I kind of started that journey. And I still noticed I was very stuck. I was really struggling. And I believe I was, everything happens for a reason. And in 2020, my ex-husband now and the father of my children died
Oh,
tragically,
wow.
um,
Oh,
to addiction. Because when we both left the cult, we both were having a struggle to find who we were. And he unfortunately resulted to kind of just drowning in addiction to kind of numb the pain.
yeah.
But that really awakened me. That grief awakened me. I saw my children grieving. I was grieving. And I just realized that there's more to life because I kept asking. I was like, please, like, show me, show me the truth here. Show me, help me understand, like, where is my ex-husband? Like, what's going on? And people kept coming to me. Like I just kept having these people come to me and be like, you know what? You should watch the near death series on what's called Surviving Death on Netflix.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, that sounds scary. Like, because my belief system was like very much against like looking at other stuff. And so it kind of scared me because I was still in denial. And the more people that came to me, I was like, okay, there must be something to this. I might as well just put it on. And the whole series is basically about near-death experiences and how everybody kind of had the same experience of when this happened to them, kind of, either meeting up that people on the other side or having this experience of divine, energy come to them and this love and, all of these things. And I was like, okay, well, there's got to be something more to this. Like if this is true, and I didn't pray because at that time I still was like, I don't know who I'm praying to. I just said, if this is true, I need someone to come to me like and tell me their near-death experience out of their mouth. I want to know that this is truth. So after I'd like kind of declare this to the world, I about 3 days later, I had a client come to me and lay on my bed. I used to be an esthetician. And she started to tell me her near-death experience, unprovoked. Like I didn't ask this woman for her near-death experience, nothing. She just started to express this to me. And I'm like, oh my God, something was listening. And tears are like straight, I mean, I even get emotional now. Like tears are like just pouring out of my face. Like
I
I'm on
bet.
crying. Like I'm not even able to like really pull myself together and do this woman's service because I'm like literally like, oh my gosh, like
Right.
just asked for this and then you come and lay on my table 3 days later and you tell me of your experience. And she's like, yeah, I don't talk about it a lot because she's like, people don't really believe it. People usually judge me or they say things. So she's like, I really don't talk about it a lot. And she's like, I don't really know why I even told you, but here we are. And I was like,
Funny.
well, I'll tell you why you told me. And so it was just,
I know why.
it was the synchronicity of all, and it was the beauty of it all. Um, and then I kind of knew that I really received the answer. Um, I felt like the in the desperation of trying to understand what this experience is and what this world is and all of these things, I got the answer I received, and so that kind of led me onto this journey of discovery of if I don't have this belief system, how am I going to create my own belief system and discover what I believe? And in that process, I began to do that, and I had what some will may call like a Kundalini awakening, where I started to feel the energy
Mhm.
in my body, and I'm like, what is happening to me? Um, and I found a transcendental meditator to teach me meditation. I felt like I was very divinely guided to that, and all of a sudden, I'm having this experience in meditation, and my body is moving in very abnormal ways. And I get done with the meditation, and the spiritual teacher, I go, "Is that the normal experience for everybody?" I'm like, "This is what just happened."
Yeah.
It's like, does everybody's body move like that when you meditate? Like, what is this? And she goes, not everybody. He's like, this is just a Kundalini awakening. He's like, I experienced it. He's like, I'm not surprised you're here. And, all of like, he acted like he knew me from, I don't
Yeah.
know, lifetimes ago. And I'm just like, who is this guy? Like, what is he trying to tell me? What does this even mean?
What's happening?
I'm
Yeah.
exactly what the heck is happening? And that was my first experience of really being awakened
Mm.
and feeling into my own energetic presence, to something that is, I guess, a higher consciousness, and to be able to access that. I began to access psychic gifts, mediumship, to be able to just be connected with a spiritual, I guess, realm, I will call it, that I didn't even know that was even present. There was a lot of fear there because I was always told psychics were bad, they were evil,
Right,
they were
right.
demonic. So the fact that I've now come full circle from thinking that that's demonic to actually being one is pretty wild.
That is. That you talk about transformation.
Yes,
That's the
exactly.
complete one.
Yes, yeah, it was like a 360 from my
Yeah.
belief into this now belief system and going on this journey.
That's so amazing. Can I ask you some questions about being inside the Jehovah's Witnesses? I mean, is that
Yes, of
okay
course.
with you?
Nothing's off the table.
Well,
Whatever.
I'm just because I want to get to how they believe. I don't know much about them myself. I know of them. But can you explain what their belief system is? Like, what do they believe?
Yeah, so their belief system basically is, I like to call it the doomsday cult,
Hmm.
where they believe that there is, right now, we are currently trying to gain approval to God, become, you know, someone that can do what God wants us to do, to be obedient to Him, so that we can be baptized as a Jehovah's Witness, because Jehovah's Witnesses actually believe they're the only one true religion, and they tell you that over and over again. So everybody outside of the religion and society are considered worldly, quote unquote. They're considered bad, evil. It really makes you feel like as if the outsiders are very unsafe. So you start to, they believe you can't hang out with people outside of the society. They tell you don't hang out with your workmates, don't hang out with
Hmm.
your other schoolmates unless they're Jehovah's Witnesses. So they really want to keep you in a bubble, right? They want to keep you in this little box, really
Right.
tight and safe so that they can keep you under control. But they believe that at the end of this system of things, there will be Armageddon. And they base that off of Revelation, scriptures and whatnot, that Armageddon will come and God is going to destroy the wicked and he's going to save the righteous. And if we do as we're told in this life, that we will be the righteous and we will live on a paradise on earth. So when you talked about the Garden of Eden, I was like, they also believe the Garden of Eden, actually was a place that Adam and
Mm.
Eve actually were, the
A
people that
thing.
started sin. Yeah, that they were actually a sin. They don't believe that it's symbolic. They believe it was an actual thing, and that's what they tell you. And that Adam and Eve did this and they messed it up. And then they blame it on the woman to boot. I
I know.
really, really
I
get
know.
pissed off about that. But
And then it's our fault now. Like
yes,
somehow
now
we're
it's the
tied
woman's
into
fault
it.
because she wanted to eat the apple. Like, I don't know. But anyway,
I
it's just,
know.
it's
It's
just wild.
crazy. It
Yeah.
is crazy, but people believe it. I mean, they believe it, right? I mean, it's
Oh,
legit.
I believed it.
Yeah, I was going to ask, did you believe it? Yeah.
Even as a little girl, I questioned a lot
Hmm.
because I started to, it's funny, even my intuition then just was trying to come out, even though I was in so much darkness, it was trying to speak to me. Because I remember asking questions only to my father, because I never would have asked them to the elders or the leaders in the group, because you're told not to do that. You can't question your faith. So I would always ask, I don't really understand, like, why I could die or you could die. One of us could not make it into the paradise. Like, for me, I couldn't wrap my head around that. So as a little girl, I used to have nightmares. Like, I would wake up sweating. I would wake up like crying because
Jeez.
I called them Armageddon nightmares, because they kind of imprint the little kids' minds with these Bible book of stories, and the pictures are terrifying because they're pictures of Armageddon, like of being destroyed and like
Gosh.
ultimate destruction. And as a little kid, I always look at these and be like, oh my God, this is terrifying. And so thus the nightmares came. And I would wake up and I'd be like, oh my God, you guys made it into the paradise and I didn't. I died and I must be so I literally thought I was like so afraid I was going to be bad, and then I wouldn't make it through. My family would, and I would be all by myself.
Oh my gosh.
And my dad would always say, well, you won't know, you'll be dead.
And you're
And
like,
I was
gee, thanks.
like, that's the freaking explanation. Like, I'll be, yeah,
You won't know.
like how terrifying. Like, you won't know. You'll be asleep in death. And I'm like, okay, well, even as a little kid, I was just like, what?
That
Like,
makes no sense. Yeah.
it made no sense to me. So I did question it a lot. But, as I began to continue to drink the Kool-Aid and believe that that's what I needed to do in order to keep my community, in order to keep my friendships, to keep my family, I just did the motions, right? I just did what I needed to do. But there were many times, actually, I can tell you right now, there was no heart and soul in there for me.
Yeah.
It just wasn't. It wasn't there. I didn't really ever resonate with it on a deeper level. I just did it. Like I used to go, we had to preach door to door. I don't know how much you know,
Well,
but
I've had them come to the door.
there you go. They come and
Over the
knock it.
years.
Yeah. Yeah, and I literally would not ring the doorbells because I would pretend like if I was with somebody that I would
Yeah.
because I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to preach about this stuff.
What do
Because
you do when you go into somebody's random house? You start preaching what you do and you want them to come join you, right? You want to
that's
recruit them?
exactly. Yeah, it's basically an MLM. It's a free marketing system. You are basically enslaved to this religion to find more followers so they can make more money and
Right.
become a nonprofit than they already are.
That's the other question. Is there a fee? Like, are they charging the members? How is this working?
So they do not do like the is it the tithing or whatever? They don't do
Yeah.
anything like that. They call it contributions. But they really talk from the podium and really, and I mean, they program you for sure. Like
Yeah.
give as much as you possibly can to the society every month. Make sure you're budgeting every month to put money in the box. And then they're even teaching kids from youth that it's a good thing to go and give money to God. Like you're giving money to God. And so they're instilling this even as a child that you're supposed to go and contribute to God. And I will be honest here, I did not do any of that.
Yeah.
I never
Well, that's good.
I didn't buy
At
into
least you
it.
saved your money.
I did. I was like, you know what? And that's the thing they teach you. They want you to stay poor. They don't want people to be educated. They frown upon education. They want to keep you suppressed. They also frown upon materialistic stuff. So they really want to keep people locked in poverty. And I just didn't buy into that story. I was like, I'm like, no, I'm meant to have money. Like, there's no
Yeah.
way in the world that I'm not going to think that abundance is not my right. Um,
And
and
this
I
is
know
enriching the top of who's in charge of the church? Was there ever a leader, a sole leader, or is there a group?
there's a group. So basically, they call them the governing body, and they kind of exist in New York. And they're
Okay.
like, I think right now there's seven of them. There's seven people that are basically the head of Jehovah's Witnesses. I believe seven or eight. I don't really keep track of them anymore.
Yeah.
Um, but they are called the governing body and they make all the rules. And so basically it's a hierarchy system. So it's the governing body, and then they have all of their like little minions.
Yeah.
Okay. So they have the circuit overseers that kind of look over like branches of the Jehovah's Witnesses. There's the elders and the ministerial servants that are in the kingdom hall that look over what they call the flock or the people. Um,
What's the Kingdom Hall? What is that?
so that's the church.
Okay, so that's
Yeah,
their
they
word
call
for the church.
So they're very excited about being the different people. So they want to act like they're no part of the world. So um, even calling religious names different is so they don't call you the pastor, they call you an elder, right?
Okay.
They believe that this very distinct language sets them apart from the world.
Okay. Well, and it
Mhm.
sort of does, because they think so differently
It
than
does,
everybody
yeah.
else.
They
Yeah.
literally put that in your brain. We're no part of the world. We're no part of the world. And they want you to think that all of this different language and the way that they operate is so different from all the other religions. They want
Right.
to they want you to believe that they're different from all of the other religions, but they're not. I found, the reason why we were awakened to begin with is we found out about child sex abuse cases.
I
Um,
saw that. I've seen that. Yeah.
it was huge in the Royal Commission in Australia. It was very, very televised publicly. It came out, and actually, they had a big falling out because of all of this, because they were
I
getting
bet.
so much money for this cover up in the religion, you don't know anything about it.
They don't talk about it, right?
No, they don't talk about it. No, there is no way they're going to talk about that. They don't want people to know.
So they keep it a secret, and they, I'm assuming, don't report this to the authorities. It's all held within the in their group.
Yes. So the reason why they were in so much trouble too is because they were telling the elders of the Kingdom Hall not to report these child sex abuse cases.
Oh
They
God.
didn't want the publicity. They didn't want to be seen as, like everybody else that is having this kind of disgusting stuff happening
Right.
in the church.
All of
Uh,
them. A lot of them. Catholic
all
Church
of
has always been there. Yeah.
them. Yeah, and so that was the big thing that said to me, okay, what they always try to tell you is, well, men are not perfect. The leaders are not perfect. Well, no, no, no. Like you're telling me that it's okay that leaders of this religion are sexually abusing children
Yeah, that's crazy.
and being predators, and then are still allowed to come to the Kingdom Hall, and then nobody else is allowed to know.
Yeah,
Like
that's
that for me, having children was like that was like I can't resonate with a
no.
religion that just hides this and covers this up. There's something not right here. And that was the initial reason why I left. But then I
Okay.
went on a rabbit hole and I was like, oh my gosh, this is scary. This is
Yeah.
scary. Found out. Yeah.
Oh, it's sad too. But they do it, any cult or group that, doesn't want you to leave, right? They tell you don't talk to anybody outside of the group because, if you start talking to your friend, they're going to go, "What are you doing?" And they know you're going to wake up and leave the group or start talking about it. And they don't
Exactly.
want that. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
it's interesting. Like what would you say after I know you work with people too who've been in cults. Like
Mhm.
what are some of the main characteristics and dynamics they use? Like and I know there's so many today. It seems like every time you turn around there's a cult documentary and I'm sucked into it. But it's really interesting the tactics that they use. Can you see it now differently than you did, obviously when you were in it?
Yes, they definitely use. So it's weird, but I've seen a similarity between an abusive relationship and a cult dynamic. It's literally the same model. It is the
Yeah.
same model. It's how can we gaslight, manipulate you, and control you,
Hmm.
right? So, and then also how can we also isolate you? And that was the biggest component I felt like from, I told you you weren't allowed to associate with anybody outside of the religion. You're not allowed to actually read or research any other religions or look outside anything. Like they always say scary things about people that talk about the religion against the religion.
Yeah.
Like, don't look at this, they're demonized, they're from Satan the devil. Like, so you're afraid. Like, you don't
Hmm.
want to go and look at things, you don't want to go and research outside of their material. And that's really a big indicator that you're in a cult, right? If someone
Right.
is, you can't look outside, you can't actually research your own religion,
Yeah.
well, then something's wrong. Like if
Wrong.
you Google Jehovah's Witnesses and it comes up with a bunch of, are you in a cult? Like,
Yeah.
you know something's not right. Like it has bad media, something's not okay, but you're not allowed to go research. Of course, they don't want you to see that.
No.
And it's fascinating to me that in this day and age that we have so much out there, so much social media, so much access, that people are still in it, that they have
I
as
know.
big of a following as they do.
How many people do you know, like worldwide, are involved?
I think it's about 8 million, which is very small for a cult. Yeah, like,
That's a
but
lot of people.
it's still a lot of people, right? And if you
Yeah.
think about Mormonism, I believe it's actually very connected to Jehovah's Witnesses when I did the history and the origins.
Yeah.
They all come from the same sect. Um, they just, shifted their beliefs a little bit, but all
Right.
came from one man, right? That decided to develop
His
his
own
own,
thing.
yeah, his own
Yeah.
method. But these systems, that's a lot of people to
That
be
is.
blind to and for people to be really trapped into this dynamic. But you are taught to not question. And if someone does bring up a seed of doubt, you're taught to stand up and be like, no way. You can't say that, like, and go and
Wow.
tattle on that person. There's a
So
whole, yeah.
I was looking into Scientology a little while ago. They do that too. Like you're tattling, reporting your neighbor or your family members if they question anything in the
Yep.
the religion or the cult. I mean, that's a sign right there, right? When you're
Yep.
in it. Like,
Yeah,
why is it a problem to question? You think if you have a legitimate thing that it's okay to ask questions. I welcome your questions. Like, let's talk about it. But yeah, the fact that you can't say anything. And then, did you know anybody inside, like, or witness anyone inside who does ask questions? Like, what happens to them?
Um, no, I never did, honestly. I do remember as a young girl, my parents having a really good friend, and he became what they call an apostate, which is someone that talks against the religion. And I do remember me questioning that. And I'm like, well, what's happening? Why would somebody do that? Like that doesn't make any sense that someone would question the religion. And that kind of gave me curiosity because at every convention, a Jehovah's Witness convention, there's always apostates, as they call them, people out there trying to warn the people like this is a bunch of BS. Like, you
Yeah,
know, kind of awaken. And I always looked at those people and I was always like, something's here. I don't know what it is, but
yeah,
when you are so clouded, so fogged, so like in it, you can't see the forest or the trees. Um, it's very hard, and that's why I think this is why I want to be an advocate for this space. I want to be able to help awaken others. I want to help people to understand why they've been in the darkness, why this even happened. Um, and it's all because it's greed, it's about control, it's about keeping people in the dark. Because if we can take people's autonomy, if we can make them not believe in their own sovereignty, we get to make money. That's it.
exactly.
That's
It's
it, right? That's
totally
all it
what
is.
it's all it is. It's a
Yeah.
manipulation, and
Yes.
it's just you need me and you got to pay the piper, you know?
Yeah. Because you were like we're taught from infancy that we are sinful. We're
Right.
broken. We need saving. Jesus needs to come and save us. Like
Well, I'm
right?
sorry to interrupt you, but
Go
that
ahead.
concept right there that you're saying, I've never understood it. I thought he died for our sins. What do you mean he needs to come back for more sin? Like
I
I try
agree.
to think of it logically, and I'm like, that doesn't even make any sense to me. He already
Yes.
died for our sins, so if you believe that whole thing. And
Right.
why would he need to come back? This whole concept of everybody's now the Messiah. You see these people stand up and claim they're the second coming, and I'm thinking, isn't that a sign right away for people to just be like, this is crazy? You know?
It is really crazy. We bought into a system and we were manipulated and we were lied to.
Yeah.
And it's not our fault, but I think there's a lot of people awakening in this, society now, in this energy that we're in now, to be able to kind of help the others kind of see the path forward. Because it hasn't worked. The system, the model that we're in is not working, right?
No. Well,
The
and what's so,
control, the oppression, it's not working.
no. So can you, I have a question and maybe you can have some insight into this, but what is it about groups at all, religions, whatever it is, that people want to join them? That it's like, what is it that the human being is looking for that they think is going to be given to them in this religion or this group or whatever it is? I mean, you could see it in the multi-level marketing thing, with Keith Raniere, his whole tactic in the Nexium cult. I mean,
Oh,
he's
yes.
using that tactic
Mhm.
and it works. And I'm trying to figure out what is it that people are searching for with that they're trying to get from the group.
It's a sense of belonging. It's a connection. One of our biggest human needs is love and connection. We have six of them. We have certainty, we have love, connection, contribution, I mean, significance. But love and connection is ultimately, we used to be tribal, right? We used
Yeah.
to run around in tribes and we used to have a sense of belonging, of community. We've existed on that for eons of time. But someone figured out that we can do this in a negative, manipulative way to be greedy and make more money. And
Hmm.
it's just multiplied, right?
Right.
So they saw the system, they saw the model, and they said, oh, wow, they're doing it. Let me try this, right? Let me create this
Yeah.
religion and distort Bible teachings and Bible stories, if you will. I feel
Yeah.
like most of the Bible is a symbolic meaning.
Hmm.
It's deeper meaning that is actually hidden knowledge that had to be put into story form in
Yeah.
order for people to understand it. That actually all of this was meant to be an autobiography of you and finding
Right.
access to consciousness. And that's what
Yes.
Jesus,
I
Jesus,
love that you just said that because most people don't say that. And I think you're right. I don't think it's literal. I mean, that's my personal opinion. And I know people believe they can believe whatever they want, but I do think it's like an evolution of our own consciousness. Like and there's lots of spiritual texts that do that.
yeah.
It's sort of a guide into your own inner world. Yeah,
Mhm. For
exactly.
sure. And we
But
were already being warned by Jesus himself, okay,
right,
these scriptures, not to believe the religious leaders, that they didn't have a good heart. Okay, well, obviously, back then in that time, whoever wrote these things was seeing how religion was being distorted to be controlling, to
right.
not give people access to their inner knowing or the intuition or be able to understand the deeper meanings of life, and to take that away from them. They took away their right, really.
Their power too, that we all have this, like, getting back to the Eden thing, that you have this memory of home that's sitting in you. Like if Jesus truly said the kingdom of God is within you, he wasn't saying that you need to worship or go to anybody else. I mean, I don't believe he was saying that, but
Yeah.
they hijacked it because they're good at that. I mean, they're good at it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's disgusting, but they are good at it. And it's not only in the churches, it's on a global elitist scale where they control the money, they're controlling everybody. And a lot of people don't know this is even happening,
They
but
don't even know what's happening. Yeah,
no, it's
because
happening. Yeah, I know.
yeah, we're because there's a darkness in a lot of of what's happened, and
Yeah,
many are not conscious enough to be able to access it.
right.
Um, and that's why the people that have done the work have been able to find this truth, this inner knowing, are the ones that are meant to speak up, that are meant to speak out, to express this knowledge. And you know what? Some people are not going to receive it, and that's okay.
Yeah,
Some people are not going to be able to handle it. It's going to trigger them, and it's going to ignite anger in them. It's going to, but what this is to do is to shift people's consciousness, to shift from the old narrative that we've been running for so long
yeah,
that's not working, right? It's a very, it's an old and it's an old model. And honestly, it's traumatizing. It's
yeah.
traumatizing to be in this space, and religious has traumatized so many people. I've spoken to hundreds and hundreds of people. It's not just Jehovah's Witnesses. It's
No,
people, in Mormonism and Catholicism, and Baptist. Like
yeah.
there's like some crazy, crazy cults out there in these ways that people are being really harmed. And
So harmed.
yeah, and it's really sad, and it's why, I feel a big passion to help people understand the deeper knowings of really what this reality is about. What are
Yeah,
we doing here? We're here to transcend our egos.
right.
We're here to
Exactly.
not harm people. And it's
Yeah,
honestly really simple. We've just complicated it.
yeah. Oh, that's kind of what the world is to me. It's like a big
Yeah.
complication until you wake up from it.
Hmm.
Well, that all is just so fascinating. And I mean, I'm sorry that that happened to you, but on the same token, it's like it showed you the inner workings and now you're available to help other people and be there for them. So maybe you can get into what you do. What do you do to help people? I know sounds like you've helped a lot of people. So,
Yeah, so the work I do, honestly, I began in just helping women heal from abusive relationships. I went on a big healing journey to have to even overcome that myself.
hmm,
So I like to give women a lot of awareness. Okay, what is narcissism? How can you identify that? I feel like, unfortunately, the majority of men have become very wounded from our society. And it has led women to have to be in that submissive role. And to think that we have to take that type of behavior because we just want to be loved and accepted, I don't want women to do that anymore. I want to empower women to break free from that. So I really want them to access their own intuition, their inner power, their inner knowing, their inner goddess, and be able to rise in their own consciousness to be their best version of their self ultimately. I began that space. I still do a lot of work with domestic violence survivors, still a lot of work with women that have come out of abuse, but I also am now very passionate about helping people come out of cult-like systems and high control religion. helping them unravel that religious programming because it runs deep, especially if you were born into it. If you were
Right.
born into it, there's going to be a lot of fear, there's going to be a lot of anxiety, there's going to be a lot of belief systems that are going to have to be broken and shattered, and you're going to need the support and the guide to help you with that. But I
Yeah.
ultimately always tell everybody this is a mind, body, spirit thing. This is a holistic approach. You cannot just go through the brain. It's about accessing the nervous system, the regulation, the body, knowing that everything that you've experienced in life is also stored inside. And if you have not felt safe enough to process it, it's still there. And that's what's causing the sickness, the mental sickness or the physical sickness is
Yeah.
all manifestation of that stored energy. So I really help people with my intuition access exactly what they are needing. I really allow spirit to channel through me to help them receive exactly what they need in their journey right
Yeah.
now to help them heal. And this is deep work. I always tell people this is not, I don't sugarcoat it.
Yeah.
Like
No.
if you come work with me, like we're digging deep and we're going deep and we're getting to the root cause and we're pulling it out and we're looking at it and we're
Yeah.
feeling it and we're doing all the things.
Be
But then
ready.
yeah, like
Yeah.
be ready. But guess what? You're going to be a completely different person on the other side of that.
Yeah.
The transformation doesn't have to be long. You don't need to be in therapy for 10 years. You don't need to be doing this.
Right.
Like it can be something that's transformational and you can get through really deep things in fast time when
Quick.
you do the subconscious brain, which is how I do hypnosis. When we get to just the root cause and we rewire the brain,
Yeah.
we get transformation much, much, much faster.
You do some kind of therapy. What is it called? Rapid, what is it? Rapid transformational therapy?
Yes,
Can you
yes.
explain what that is?
Sure. So it's a cognitive behavioral therapy and psychotherapy with NLP, so neuro-linguistic programming. So really working with how the brain operates, but also being able to do that all through hypnosis. So
Mm.
not controlling you. So for anybody who's like, oh my God, hypnotherapy, that's so scary.
No.
I get that all the time. We're in
I've done
hypnosis.
it. It's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing. Like
Yeah.
you can literally get rid of anything. Um, but hypnosis is a state of mind, right? You're in it all the time throughout the day. You don't realize it. Like
Yeah.
when you have like no idea what you just were doing or you forgot where you were, well, you were in your part of your brain and you were in this brave, this wavelength that you completely checked out, but your subconscious still was like, hey, I know where you're going. I'll get
Yeah.
you there.
Yeah.
And this is where we're accessing all of this because guess what? It has every memory you've ever had in this lifetime. Even the ones that your brain has said, oof, you better put this in a box and never look at again. But for myself, that was actually the memory that I needed to access to
Mm.
understand the cause of my entire pain.
Wow.
So when I accessed it through that, I realized, oh my God, now I know why I was so traumatized. I was sexually abused when I was 3 years old.
Yeah.
And I had known it my whole entire life, but my brain had hid the perpetrator from me
Okay.
because that person was supposed to be safe.
Right. So
So
you're
that was the
blocking
only
it.
way I could deal with it, right? It was the
Hmm.
only way I could deal with it. And when I accessed that memory, I was like, oh my God, it was like everything linked up. I could connect all of my pain, everything that had happened in my life to the reason why I had behaved, done the things I did, said the things I said was linked all back to that. And it was like unraveling a sweater. I
Yeah.
finally got to the end of it and now I knew where the pain came from. And so I could fully heal.
Oh, that's amazing. So
Mhm.
do you work do you do online sessions or is it all in person?
So I do both, actually. I do all people from all over the world, to be honest. You can do hypnosis online. It's actually even better because you're in your own surroundings and you feel more safe.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately the best way to access that part of your brain is and relax the nervous system.
Right.
Because many of us are running in a lot of trauma responses and don't feel safe enough to go inward. That's why
Yeah.
everybody says, I can't meditate. There's no way I can meditate. My brain's too crazy. Well, because you don't feel safe to.
Right.
You don't feel safe to go inside.
No. Well, and it's just a constant projection and distraction outside. It's like, what are you going to find in there? That's what
Yes,
people are
people are
scared
so
of.
afraid.
Yeah.
Yeah, people are afraid to look at their demons. They're inside the shadows and the
Oh,
and
yeah.
the yucky things. I was afraid.
Yeah.
I was deeply afraid. But the more that I did it, it was just being able to meet myself,
Yeah.
right? We all have some darkness inside, and if you just ignore it and you just avoid it,
Oh,
like
I know.
you're not going to give yourself full access to everything that you need to know about yourself and heal.
Yeah.
So you're just thinking that you can be all positive love and light, and that's just not the way it works.
No, I mean there's beauty in the darkness too of what you can learn and what's available there, all the opportunity that's sitting there. But yeah, like you said, most people they don't want to look at it. It's too much, and maybe it's too much for some people right now.
Yeah.
That's a thing. Yeah,
It is. Unpopular opinion,
yeah,
I can say this right now is that you got into an abusive relationship because there's darkness in you as well. A lot of the times we like to play the victim. Oh, poor me. I got into an
yeah.
abusive relationship. Oh, I feel so bad for myself. Well, actually, no, the reason why I was in one was also because I was wounded,
Right.
right? I acted from my own woundedness in that relationship as well. I played a part. It takes literally two to tango. It's not just
Sure.
he's the abuser and I'm the victim.
Yeah.
Um, I played a role as well. And a lot of the times we don't like to look at the role that we played in these type of relationships and that we are wounded as well. We want to just blame it on someone else.
Oh, it's much easier to blame somebody else.
Of course it is. Of course it
I'm
is.
perfect.
Yeah, it's so easy to blame someone else. You have to look, that part is the darkness, right? You got to look in. Okay, well, why was I in this abusive relationship? What is it trying to teach me about me?
Right. And what was I attracting in the first place? Like, how did I get there? Yeah. That's
That's
so
right.
interesting. Maybe we could switch gears for a second. And I know you've got a book coming out, but you've also written a children's book on grief. So maybe you can share that with us, where we can buy them. Your book's coming out. I want to hear about that.
Sure. So The Grief Monster is my children's book. Obviously, you heard a little bit about my story about my ex-husband dying and the grief process that I had to experience with my children.
Yeah.
Um, in healing my own inner child and sitting with my inner child, these books were born. I actually have more inside of me. I've written some of them as well, about emotional intelligence. And one of them I began with first was The Grief Monster because it's a really beautiful project for me. Actually about ready to do a workshop with equine assisted therapy, and a
Mm.
grief workshop for little children based off of my book. And this book is
Oh,
about a
fun.
little boy that loses his dad, and a grief monster comes to visit. And he doesn't know what to do with this grief monster at first. But it's about teaching children how to process their grief and that, it doesn't have to be so scary. Like it can actually be something and they can ask for support. And because we're not taught how to grieve death, you
No.
know, and, even as an adult,
Well,
we
I was
don't
going
even
to say adults
we
don't
don't
even
even know.
know, let alone a
Yeah,
child. Yeah.
exactly. And I saw my kids really struggle and I said, there's not enough books out there for kids to understand this. And so it was very much a passion project. So that we can definitely put that in the show notes. That's on Amazon right now. That's been
Okay.
out last year.
Okay.
Um, and my next book is Shattered, Broken, and Beautiful. And this is really my journey of losing my religion and finding faith, finding what really is a higher consciousness, what is a higher power to me, and being able to resonate with how that has given me the gift of understanding who I am. I didn't know before in this discovery process. So I really talk about how I grew up in the cult, what we kind of just experienced today. I really
Yeah.
let everybody know the ins and outs of this cult.
Yeah.
And also generational trauma, being in an abusive relationship. I talk about all these things, including my awakening, because I believe that people need to hear it. People
Yeah.
need to understand it, and they need to witness inside my story things that they may resonate with in their own story. Everybody, we all have something in common.
Oh, 100%.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
When
Yes.
is this coming out? When's your book released?
That'll be March 25th, 2025. So in a couple months. I'm very excited. Yeah, we're getting revved up here with all this excitement. So
Oh, that's so awesome. Is that going to be on Amazon, or are you going to have it on your website or
it'll
both?
be on both my website and Amazon. So you'll be
Okay.
able to access it any way you want. Yeah.
And your website, share that with everybody.
Sure. It's lifecoachinggoddess.com.
Okay.
So you
And
can
I'll put all
pull
that
the
in the show notes for everybody.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Well, I just love what you're able to share and the way you say it with such ease now. I mean, it looks as if you've come so far. I mean, I can't even imagine what it was like for you to step out on your own and then like have no clue, like you said, who you were and being raised in that environment. I mean, that's like I just can't even fathom it. So I'm so happy that you joined us and shared that, because I know there's a lot of people that are going through the same thing, that there's these cults are everywhere. I mean,
They
I
are.
every time I turn around, I'm like reading about a new one, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I am fascinated by them, mostly just how it sucks people in and how it grabs a hold of the mind and how brainwashed, they use it and they're so good at it. But I do think that we were onto something earlier, and that, you're speaking to this cult, but then we're talking about it on a global scale. And then you can kind of see that type of behavior with other people, And I mean, it's just sort of the ego mind's way of operating. And it's when you see it, you see it, you can't unsee it,
Yes, exactly. I've always experienced, once you know, you can't go back,
Yeah.
right? You can't, you just, you have, once you see it, you're like, oh, wow, okay. And it can be really disruptive because you don't want to believe that, right? Or you don't want to, because if you have held on to a belief system for so long, that's really scary to see that there is another side to it, or there's another,
Yeah.
or there's a deeper knowing here to understand. And a lot of times we can resist that. I know
Yeah.
I coming up for me a lot, but just knowing that if you keep an open mind, you're going to go further in your journey than you
Yeah.
ever thought possible. But when you close yourself off, you're going to stay stuck.
Oh, and yeah, when you resist, yeah, it takes a long
Mhm.
time.
Yes.
It takes a
Yes.
long time. So
Yes.
I think we'll wrap up here. I just want to give you the floor to say anything else that comes to mind, maybe for people that are listening that might be in the middle of an abusive situation or a traumatic experience. Is there anything you would like to share or leave anybody a message or something that may help them?
Sure. So I always like to say, change your mind, you change your life, and it's the truth. Because if you can look at your thoughts, look deeply into what you believe about yourself, and you will get to understand, okay, well, maybe I do have some limiting beliefs about myself. Where did these come from? What are the root cause of them? And to get curious
Hmm.
about them really can help you shift your perspective about you and regain, who you've always wanted to be. Maybe you're always comparing yourself to other people. Well, you can be like them if you allowed yourself to just kind of look a little bit deeper within. So I always say, get very curious. Also know that you have support. I did a lot of this on my own. It was a very trauma response for me to think that I could be hyper independent and I could just figure it all out on my own. But it made me stumble around a lot. And if you just, admit that there's a problem and you
Right.
admit something wrong and you reach out for support, you're going to make the process so much easier. So don't deny yourself of that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. That's really awesome. And I've really enjoyed our time here. For everybody listening, you can check out Brooke's website at lifecoachinggoddess.com, right?
Yes, perfect.
Okay.
Thank
I will link everything in the show notes too for anybody that's interested in more of your work. And thank you so much for joining me today, Brooke. It's been an awesome experience.
thank you for having me, Lindsay.
That'll wrap up today's show. Until next time, I invite you to check out my website at livelikeeden.com. You can sign up for a weekly email reminder when my new podcast and blog comes out, which is every Wednesday. If you are struggling with your own awakening process and you need further assistance or guidance, you can also sign up for a free consult, and I would be more than happy to work with you. If you're enjoying the show, I ask that you share it with others that you think it might benefit. Until next time, thank you so much for listening.